Hi, you're on Reddit Confessions, where real stories get real uncomfortable. It wasn't the dress. It wasn't the way she laughed too loud. It wasn't even the fact that she called him Bran, like they were childhood sweethearts, and I was just the valet standing nearby. It was the way she smiled before she saw me watching. I was near the back of the ballroom, fake laughing through a conversation with some tech guy who kept showing me pictures of his dog's Halloween costumes. I'd lost track of Dana, my wife, for maybe 4 minutes. Long enough for the band to switch songs. Long enough for him to appear. From where I stood, I caught just enough. Her head tilted back, hand on his chest, his fingers brushing her lower back like muscle memory. That kind of closeness isn't improvised. That's rehearsed. Let me be clear, this wasn't jealousy. This was pattern recognition. See, 2 months ago, I found a text on her phone. I wasn't snooping, I swear. Her screen lit up while she was in the shower. A message from Bran, work, popped up. Tonight was dangerous. I'm still smiling. She said it was a joke. Said Bran was gay. Said I was being too sensitive. So I dropped it. Like I always do. Like the good, spineless, apologetic husband I am. But tonight, watching her drift into his arms like I wasn't even in the room, that flipped a switch I didn't know I had. I didn't make a scene. I didn't scream. I just waited. She came back with flushed cheeks, like she'd been running through warm rain. Oh my God. You remember Bran, right? She said, brushing a crumb off my jacket like I was the one who needed cleaning up. And I said it, just loud enough for only her to hear. If you step out there and dance with him again, then we'll be having a different talk. She blinked. Then she smirked. That's when I knew. This wasn't about dancing. This was about decisions that were made long before tonight. And that different talk? It was already coming. I didn't plan anything that happened next. I'm not clever enough for revenge or dramatic speeches. But that night something in me shifted, like a dull ache finally cracking into a sharp pain you can't ignore. After I told Dana not to dance with him again, she just gave me that look, half amusement, half pity. Like I was a child trying to stake a claim in a world too complicated for me. She didn't argue, didn't explain. She just said, "Relax, Curtis. It's just a party." But she didn't stay at the table. 10 minutes later, she was gone again. I knew exactly where. I walked out of the ballroom, down the empty corridor near the coat room, trying to get some air. And that's when I heard her laugh again. The real one, not the polite chuckle she gives me at home. It came from the side patio. They were alone. Her wine glass was on the railing. He had his jacket draped over her shoulders. She was smiling up at him like he'd written the stars into the sky just for her. I didn't interrupt. I just stood there in the shadows, not saying a word, not breathing too loudly. I don't know how long I stayed, but long enough to see her hand trace the line of his chest, long enough to hear her say, "He's just not enough anymore." She didn't say my name, but she didn't have to. I went back inside. The gala was still in full swing, no one noticing the man in the wrinkled suit moving through the glitter and laughter like a ghost. At our table, her clutch sat open next to her phone. I reached in, grabbed the folded napkin I'd used earlier to wipe champagne off my shoe, and wrote 2 sentences. "You made your choice. I won't be your background anymore." That's all. No accusations. No drama. Then I left. I walked out through the lobby, past the bored valet guy, into the cool air where nobody looked at me like I was pathetic. I didn't have a plan. I just started walking. Block after block, the rhythm of my shoes on pavement kept time with the echo of her voice. He's just not enough anymore. I spent the night in a 24-hour diner, nursing bad coffee and staring out the window at nothing. I didn't call, didn't text. I didn't want to hear the lies, or worse, the rationalizations. At 3:11 a.m., I got a message. Just one line. "Curtis, what the hell does this note mean?" She knew. She knew. But she didn't say sorry. She didn't say she missed me. She didn't say, "Come home." Just confusion. Just damage control. And that told me more than I ever needed to know. The next morning, I came home like a thief. Quiet, tired, and unsure if I even belonged there anymore. I didn't expect Dana to be awake. But she was, sitting on the edge of the bed, fully dressed in one of her clean-cut, no-wrinkle blazers like she was headed to a board meeting instead of a conversation with her broken husband. She didn't look angry. She looked rehearsed. That was worse. Before I could even take off my coat, she started. "Curtis, I need to know what's going on. That note you left, what was that? A threat? A stunt?" Her tone was sharp, clipped, like this was a negotiation and not a fallout. I can't believe you'd pull something like that in the middle of my event. Do you know how that made me look? That, right there. That sentence told me everything. It wasn't, "Are you okay?" or "We need to talk." It was, "How dare you embarrass me?" Like I was the one who stepped into someone else's arms. Like I had crossed the line. I didn't yell. I just stared at her and said, "What were you doing with him out on the patio?" She blinked. "We were talking, Curtis. Just talking. About work. About the people we used to know. You're reading too much into it." "No," I replied. "I heard you. I'm not enough anymore." Her face went still, like someone had pressed pause. Then came the worst thing imaginable. Her fake sympathy voice. "Curtis, you must have misheard. I was talking about my job, not you." My job. She expected me to believe that she was whispering to her ex-coworker, in the dark, about how her job wasn't enough anymore. I've played along with a lot over the years, but that one? That was beyond insulting. When I didn't respond, she softened her tone. "You always do this," she said. "You assume the worst about me. It's like you want to catch me doing something wrong so you can feel justified in being distant." That nearly knocked the breath out of me. Me? The man who worked overtime to afford her weekend art retreats. The man who sat through modern theater performances with zero intermissions. The man who looked the other way every time she called late nights at the office team building. I was distant. I remember whispering, "How long has it been, Dana?" She didn't answer. Not directly, at least. She just said, "It was never serious. I needed someone to talk to who saw me. That's all." That sentence. That's all. I felt like she'd slapped me with it. Like I was some invisible outline of a man, blurry at the edges, fading from the life we built together. She called it not serious. Like erasing me was casual. Like hiding in plain sight was reasonable. And still, part of me wanted her to ask me to stay. To fight for us. To say, I was wrong. But instead, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're overreacting." That's when I knew I wasn't the one leaving. She already had. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a little. Dana fell asleep easily, as if our conversation had been just another mild disagreement, like what takeout to order or whether the thermostat was too low. She turned off the lamp, rolled to her side, and left me sitting upright in the same bed where I used to feel safe. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing with 1,000 versions of what not serious could mean. By 5 a.m., I decided I needed to know more. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I couldn't move forward without the full picture. If Dana wasn't going to be honest with me, I had to find the truth myself. So, when she left for her morning jog, because of course she still had the energy to jog, I opened her laptop. The same laptop she always guarded like it contained nuclear codes. I didn't even need a password. It was already open. At first, I saw nothing. Normal stuff, spreadsheets, Zoom call links, marketing decks. But then I noticed a folder on the desktop labeled Personal. I almost didn't click it. I told myself I'd feel worse knowing. But I did it anyway. Inside were screenshots. Hundreds of them. Messages. Instagram DMs. Emails forwarded to herself. And there he was, Bran. Not Bran, work, just Bran. No last name. Just message after message of inside jokes, late-night confessions, and worse, pictures. Not explicit, but intimate in a way that hit harder. A shot of him holding her hand across a restaurant table. A selfie of them sitting shoulder to shoulder in a cab. Her head on his chest while he took the picture. I felt sick. I felt like a stranger in my own house. The woman who said, "You're overreacting," had gone on dates, taken photos, built memories with him. And then I found the worst one. It was a picture of the two of them in our backyard. He was leaning against the fence. She was barefoot, holding a mug, my mug, smiling in that same effortless way she used to smile at me. It was from 2 weeks ago. That meant he'd been here, at our house, while I was at work. She brought him into our life like it was hers to rearrange. Like my presence didn't even register. I closed the laptop. I couldn't breathe. I went to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, stared into the mirror like I'd see someone who could handle this. But all I saw was the same exhausted, apologetic man who'd been asking for crumbs of love and calling it enough. When Dana returned, she was glowing from the run, earbuds in, sweaty and refreshed like betrayal didn't weigh anything. She kissed my cheek and said, "You look tired." I stared at her and whispered, "He was in our yard." Her smile cracked. Not entirely, but enough for me to catch it. She didn't deny it. She just said, "Curtis, you shouldn't have gone through my stuff." That was it. That was her defense. Not "I'm sorry." Not "let me explain." Just turning the blame around like a magic trick. And I realized I wasn't living with a partner. I was living with someone who treated me like a narrative inconvenience. Something inside me hardened. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just nodded. Because the next move wasn't hers anymore. I didn't confront her again. Not that day. Not the next. I needed space to think, and honestly, I wanted to see how long she'd pretend things were fine. Spoiler, she never brought it up. Not once. No apology. No explanation. Just cheerful small talk, like we hadn't crossed some invisible line neither of us could walk back from. She even asked if I wanted to go with her to her friend Shelby's dinner party on Saturday, like nothing had changed. I said yes. Not because I wanted to go, but because I needed to. Shelby was Dana's closest friend. The two of them were inseparable in college, and if anyone knew what Dana had been doing behind my back, it was Shelby. I needed to see them together, in their natural habitat, where filters slipped and secrets were exchanged with clinks of wine glasses. The dinner was at Shelby's loft. Modern, overpriced, full of statement art pieces no one could explain. Everyone there worked in marketing or tech startups, talking fast and laughing louder. I didn't fit in. I never had. I was the safe husband, the one who drove people home when they drank too much, the one who refilled the ice bucket. Bran wasn't there. I was both relieved and disappointed. About halfway through the night, I stepped into the hallway outside the kitchen, needing a break from pretending. That's when I overheard Shelby's voice from behind the pantry door, low but sharp. "He doesn't know, right?" she asked. Another voice, Mallory, I think, replied, "Not really. She says he kind of suspects, but he won't do anything. He's, like, passive to a fault." Then Shelby again. "She's got guts bringing him here." I couldn't keep a straight face if it were me. I mean, after everything? They laughed. Not loudly, but enough. Enough for something inside me to break completely. I didn't go back to the living room. I walked straight to the bathroom, locked the door, and stared at my reflection under harsh LED lights. I looked pale. Not sick, humiliated. She knew. They all knew. And I was the weak link. The forgotten character in her new storyline. I went back to the table eventually. Smiled. Ate a cold piece of salmon and pretended I didn't hear a thing. Dana leaned over once, touched my arm, and whispered, "Thanks for coming tonight. I know it's not really your scene." She said it like I was a charity case. I nodded, but in my pocket was my phone, and I'd already texted a realtor. Because I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't even going to argue. I was going to disappear, just like she already had, long before that first dance. The moment I made contact with the realtor, something shifted inside me. Not in a dramatic movie scene kind of way, but quietly, like a screw finally locking into place after months of wobbling. I realized I'd been living on the edge of a ledge I wasn't even aware of. And now, for the first time, I was stepping back from it. Dana, of course, remained blissfully unaware. She was more energized than ever. Maybe she thought my silence meant acceptance. Maybe she believed I'd just fade into the background again, like wallpaper. Either way, the next week she dropped another surprise. I was thinking of throwing a little garden party. You know, just a few people. Brent might come. She said it without even blinking. She wasn't hiding anymore. She didn't need to. I said sure. Just like that. No expression. No tone. I think that scared her more than if I'd yelled. That weekend, I helped her set up. Strung up the lights. Mowed the lawn. Cleaned the patio chairs. I was the picture-perfect husband, and everyone noticed. I saw the glances. The same friends who laughed behind pantry doors now smiled at me awkwardly, not quite sure what I knew or didn't know. Brent came. Of course he did. He wore that smug, overgroomed look like a badge. He shook my hand with too much confidence and said, "Curtis, always a pleasure." I smiled. Likewise. Because this wasn't his story. It was mine. Throughout the evening, I watched her flutter around, entertaining, laughing, leaning in too close. Brent stood in her orbit like he belonged there. And I let it happen. I let it all play out because I'd already sent the final email that morning. The house was officially listed. Quietly, discreetly. A cash buyer was already lined up. They'd seen photos, loved the garden. An offer was in. And she didn't know. Because the mortgage was in my name. The savings account, too. Dana never wanted to deal with the finances. It wasn't her strength. So she had no clue that while she was flirting with her affair partner in our backyard, I was planning to give them both exactly what they wanted. Freedom. After the party, when the last guest left and the fairy lights buzzed in the breeze, she turned to me, wine glass in hand, cheeks flushed. See? This is what we needed. A night with good people, no drama. I nodded slowly. You're right. No drama. And I meant it. Because I wasn't going to fight anymore. I wasn't going to confront her or corner her or demand anything. That would give her power. No. I was going to make one final move. The kind she'd never see coming. The kind you only pull when you're done being the fool at his own party. 2 days after the garden party, Dana still had no clue. She walked around humming to herself, pouring oat milk into her coffee, tapping away on her phone like she was texting her girlfriends, though we both knew better. She kissed my cheek out of habit before leaving for work, not even realizing I didn't kiss back. She had this rhythm, this casual arrogance, that convinced her I was too spineless to ever really leave. But I'd already packed my office drawers. I'd spoken to the lawyer. I'd even transferred my direct deposit to a new private account she didn't know existed. The buyer for the house had already wired the down payment. Everything was moving behind the curtain, and I was finally the one pulling the strings. That evening, I waited until she left for her Pilates class, the one she always used as a cover for decompressing, which I'm now certain meant a drink or dinner with Bran. I didn't bother checking anymore. I didn't need more proof. I already knew who she was. I walked through the house slowly, taking it in one last time. The worn armrest where my elbow had made a permanent dent. The little chip in the kitchen tile we always meant to fix. The bookshelf she insisted on filling with cookbooks she never opened. It was mine once. It wasn't anymore. When she returned, she was laughing. That laugh that used to be for me. She kicked off her sneakers and froze the second she saw my duffel bags by the door. Going somewhere. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make it dramatic. I sold the house, I said flatly. She blinked. Laughed once like it was a joke. What? I sold it. Cash buyer. The closing is in 10 days. You have until next weekend to pack. She didn't move. Didn't speak. Just stared like I dropped ice down her spine. You can't just sell our house without talking to me. It's not our house, I said calmly. It's mine. You never wanted your name on anything, remember? Less paperwork, less stress. I smiled just a little. Turns out, that worked out for me. The silence that followed was thick with panic. Her eyes darted to her phone. Probably to call someone. Bran, maybe, or Shelby, the loyal cheerleader. But I wasn't done. There's a storage unit already rented in your name. I prepaid the first month. You'll find the keys on the kitchen counter. Oh, and I changed the locks. You did what? You're welcome to stay until Sunday. After that, you'll need to find somewhere else to decompress. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked at me like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. And honestly, she didn't. She thought I'd be broken. She thought I'd beg. She thought I'd cry in the corner like a dog left out in the rain. But I didn't. Because I had finally become someone else. Someone who refused to live in the background of his own life. She followed me to the porch as I walked to the car. You're seriously just walking away? She shouted. I turned back one last time, and this time, I smiled. I walked away the night you said I wasn't enough. You just didn't notice. A week passed faster than I expected. I moved into a small but bright apartment downtown. Nothing extravagant, but it had clean lines, tall windows, and most importantly, peace. No half-hearted affection. No whispered lies, no shadows of someone else's perfume clinging to the air. Just quiet. For the first time in years, I could hear myself think. Dana texted me once after I left. Just one word. Really? I didn't reply. The house closed. The lawyer transferred the funds. My new bank account looked healthier than my self-esteem had in months. And that was the thing. I hadn't realized how much of myself I'd given away to preserve something that had been hollow for a long time. I wasn't just walking away from her. I was walking back to myself. One morning, maybe 3 weeks later, I was reading in my apartment, some history book I picked up from a secondhand shop, when someone knocked. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to check the peephole. It was Dana. She looked different. Hair down, makeup smudged, like she hadn't planned to come, but her heart got ahead of her logic. She had something in her hands, probably the mug. The same one from the backyard photo. My mug. I watched her stand there, shifting on her feet, looking around the hallway like she was trying to rehearse what to say. I waited. A full minute. She didn't knock again. And then she walked away. I never opened the door. Because I didn't need closure. I didn't need an apology she probably didn't mean. I had something better, a life I was building on my own terms. One that didn't require begging for affection or pretending everything was fine. I was finally learning how to be alone without feeling lonely. And that's how this ends. Not with rage. Not with revenge. Just with a man rediscovering his worth, one peaceful morning at a time. So tell me, have you ever had to walk away from someone who didn't see your value until it was too late? Or maybe there's a moment in history that reminds you how silence can say more than words ever could. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. You've been watching Reddit Confessions. Thanks for being here.